Ready to reconvene to open session. The APS Board of Education met in executive session as authorized by the Public Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H5 and I1 to discuss collective bargaining strategy. The matters discussed were limited to that topic. So we're going to move on to the rest of our agenda. And our first is, let me go here. Here we go. Our next item is consideration for approval of the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between Albuquerque Municipal School District number 12 and the Albuquerque Teachers Federation. I'm going to move first for a motion, and then we'll have discussion following it. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to motion to approve the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between Albuquerque Municipal School District number 12 and the Albuquerque Teachers Federation.
I'll second. All right. So we have a motion by Board Member Dominguez, second by Board Member Peterson. I'll open up any discussion. Board Member Aragon.
I'll just kind of go through quickly. I know I already sent follow-up questions, but those can be answered later. So I'm just going to kind of go through things that I think that maybe need to be looked at in the future. That way we're not sitting here trying to answer several more questions. So about the 2-year contract, if it's still in management interest when the new superintendent comes in and new board members come in, and about if renegotiating existing terms, if that's allowable, why aren't we doing it? About collection of union dues, how that's not a violation of anti-donation clause, about management rights. Seems to be that a lot of them have been taken away and given to the unions. Let's see, no, that's not necessary. About teachers that are being mentored just because of a lot of new teachers are afraid to speak up and they've been pushed into joining the union by mentors who are union members. So making sure that that we're looking at that to ensure that there are mentors who aren't union members. And looking at consulting teachers and how they're reporting on the principals on client progress as it concerns a principal survey that should belong to management. About conceptual agreements not being met and how long this can go on, because this has gone on for over a decade. And then about the long list of family members who are included as immediate family, to make sure that taxpayers do know that they're paying employees for this long list of family members when it comes to leave. And then about what other government entities pay their employees who are elected officials while they're away from their jobs, and the cost to taxpayers for those that are earning 40% of their salary while on parental leave. And I think kind of talking a little bit more about the MOUs and what are they are attached to a contract and kind of what the legal consequences are if those MOUs are not carried out. So if some of those, questions can be answered and those can be looked at as far as dates and recommendations not being made. So many of these, it's been 10, 11 years, 7 or 8 years. And if it hasn't been carried out, then, or if there is a set date, then those should probably expire. And then I just want everybody to know that I am very supportive, having been a teacher, of teacher pay raises, of teachers getting paid for the work they do. They should not be working and not getting paid for the work they do. I'm very supportive of all the differentials. I think that is wonderful. And I'm very supportive of putting kids first. I want the parents, I want everybody to know what parents are thinking. Parents want to always put the kids first. The unions put the union first. Parents want school choice. The unions don't. Parents want investment in teachers. Unions want investment in teachers' unions. Parents want the quality of teachers most important to them. Instead, the union believes seniority goes above quality. Parents want parental rights. They want knowledge about what goes on at school in every part of their child's education. The union believes in secrecy and no parental rights to anything. Parents and community believe that the best teachers should be paid more. The union thinks all education is quality and everyone should get paid the same, no matter if you're the best teacher around. Parents are very concerned about the state of education, and the union thinks everything is going well. And during COVID, parents wanted kids in schools, and the union said no in-person school. Parents wanted kids on masks, and unions made sure to keep them masked. And look where we are now because of what unions did. Our kids aren't first, but the union's just fine.
Thank you. Any other comments? Board Member Jackson?
So I will also state that I am very supportive of the pay raises for our teachers, the changes to the prep time, the increase in the differentials for our athletics, support the stipends for the bell to bell, support the PD that you guys have negotiated into this. And I really appreciate the work that you guys have put into the negotiated agreement, the time that you guys have spent. Where I would like to focus, and my question concerns Appendix J29, the standards-based teaching memorandum of understanding. Obviously, we talk a lot about the fact that we have goals, guardrails, and a strategic plan. And I mean, we just discussed how important it is to what our role is and how important it is for the administration to have the ability to implement the goals and guardrails using the strategic plan within the district. The reason that is so important is because we did have an organizational diagnostic that was conducted where they found that only 38% of our students were receiving grade level specific curriculum. My concern about this memorandum of understanding is that it doesn't have strength and action behind it. And so my question is, does this memorandum of understanding, do you think it goes far enough to assert the management rights that you all need in order to manage the schools and the instruction programs?
Let me go. So I believe that the district retains its management rights, certainly over instruction and instructional programs, as well as facilities. That is a given management right. One of the responses to a question in writing speaks to that particular issue with respect to the Common Core state standards and where rigorous instruction lines up with our strategic plan. So our strategic plan and one of the strategic initiatives most certainly speaks to rigorous instruction and the utilization of high quality instructional material.
Okay, so you've
Yes, is the short answer.
Yes.
He said he was going to whisper it in my ear, but he's going to shout it.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Melendres. Okay, I'm happy to hear that. I think I'm just concerned that it's just not sufficient. And so I'm happy that has been stated. I'm happy that that's it's in writing, and thank you for whoever replied to that. But I think that's the question I have for right now, since we're doing like
Okay,
a one question thing, and then we'll come back.
sure. Board Member Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to build a little bit off of Member Jackson's question because I think I had a nearly identical question. So I won't repeat the question, but I do want to say I do appreciate the new MOU, and I do think it's appropriate to start with teacher leadership and teacher support in the development of additional curricular materials to enable the district to meet the goals. So I do support that. I'm glad that it's there. I look forward to more work within the district to improve instruction. And I still, I think like Member Jackson, have pretty significant concerns about the amount of detail and prescription in the contract overall as it relates to issues of instruction, which is a management right, management focus. And so I think that's still a significant tension that ought to be continued to be worked on over the course of future negotiations as you begin to collectively implement this MOU with the union. And so I look forward to updates on how that is going as well. I think that's critically important. And as we've talked about over the course of this SOFG work, the district exists to improve student outcomes. And if we have 38% of our classrooms not experiencing grade level content, we are doing something wrong. And so I appreciate the acknowledgement that we need to face those hard truths, that we need to be courageous in implementing change. And I hope that this is the first step. So I am cautiously optimistic, but still have concerns about that.
Thank you. Any other board member comments? Board Member Dominguez.
First, I want to thank you for following, for honoring the CBA process. We are the 4th or 5th largest employer in the city. Is that correct, Superintendent Elder?
Yeah, I think UNM and UNMH may be larger, but we hold our own.
So,
We take them in a fight.
and so to all the parents who work for us, just know I'm happy to hear that we appreciate the work. We support you on salaries. My aspirational goal is to get you to a $40,000 entry level so that we're not perpetuating poverty level wages. And thank you for honoring teachers and educators because they are the foot soldiers. And if we're going to make any changes, if we're going to move forward, we have to set the tone. This dais has to set the tone. And we have to be appreciative and honoring those foot soldiers. They need support. And I appreciate that we have the model of collective bargaining that we do, that it is interest-based, and that you handled it so well, respectfully. And I think it needs to continue in that vein. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Tadlock.
45 seconds.
Another 45 seconds. You got it.
I'm short. And, I don't want to repeat what's been said, but just I'll acknowledge the two of you on what you've done, and just securing what we wanted going forward in terms of the visions, the goals, and the guardrails of the community and holding fast to that. I'll continue to stress that one statement that the organization and everything should be challenged and it will require change in adult behaviors. And that's from everybody that's involved in this process. It's not one-sided. It is definitely two-sided. And I hope the sooner we come to that understanding, the sooner we start to make the steps forward of the progress that's needed. So just thank you. Thank you to the teachers. I think that goes without saying. We understand their efforts and the sacrifices that they make. And obviously their passion is what brought them to this, and that we need to ensure that they stay in this field, they stay in our district, and we continue to make sure that our students get the best support and resources that they need.
Thank you. Board Member Peterson.
I think, well, first off, thank you for the work that was done. Thank you to both sides because it's a huge investment of just energy, blood, sweat, tears, and everything else. So thank you for the work that went into it. I mean, quite frankly, I have some real concerns about this contract, but I don't think it was because of the doing of anyone here. The extended day is creating huge issues, and I think that the negotiating teams from both sides really work to address that in the best possible way for the community, for students, for teachers. But when we start talking about wanting to support teachers in elevating their practice, and that means from the most master teacher to the brand new teacher that's really struggling, if we're talking about elevating that practice, which I think I've never known a teacher that didn't want to do that, didn't welcome professional development, didn't welcome the opportunity to grow professionally, it takes time. And when I look at this contract, I really am very concerned about bell to bell and what the implications are going to be for actual practice. Because anyone who's been through any kind of professional development knows that regardless of how wonderful the professional development is, if you don't have time to think about it, to collaborate with colleagues, to figure out what it actually means for the students in front of you, as a teacher, it is not going to pay off. So I am very happy that there's language within the contract that's going to let problems be solved. Sometimes it'll be contentious. Sometimes it will really and truly, and hopefully most of the time, it will be with a problem on the table and how do we together solve it? Because it cannot be solved without listening to the voice of the practitioners that are actually trying to do it in the classroom. It can't be solved without the district level knowing what the limitations of time and resources are. And so somehow there's got to be a path forward to make this a good year. And I hope that's where we can really focus our attention right now going forward, because it's going to be a hard year. There's a lot in this contract that is, with the best will on every side, is going to be really difficult. And so the attitude of problem solving, of being in this together, and of deep, deep mutual respect for what everyone brings to the table is going to be really critical. So thank you for the work that's been done, and we'll go forward.
Thank you, board members. And again, just a deep appreciation for negotiation and that process on both sides, because I know, having been a part of negotiating teams, I know how difficult and contentious it can become. But you know what I have a tremendous amount of faith and trust in the adults that work for our system. I know that the adults that come to the system really truly care about our kids, really care about our city, and really want, at the end of the day, I don't think there's anybody that says, gee, I really want to mess this up. Everybody comes in with this attitude that I really want to get this right. I really want to do what's important so that we can elevate what's best for our students. I think all of us have that as a best interest. I agree with Board Member Peterson, a difficult year because we've challenged the system in a lot of ways. But again, I think the adults in our system are ready to rise to that challenge. And we know it's not going to be easy, and we know it's going to have some sticky points throughout the year. But I have this tremendous faith in the adults that make up our collective together. It's kind of like a family, right? If we don't have healthy conflict, if we don't have conflict, and especially if we don't do it in a healthy way, it's not growth. And that's part of what student outcomes focused governance is about, right? It's also about this commitment to continuous improvement, and knowing that we're not going to get it right all the time, but we have to have a commitment as a collective, as the adults that are responsible for delivering this, to really make that commitment to each other so that we can get this done. So thank you so much, everyone who was on part of the negotiation on this. And I'm just going to call for the vote on another item. Oh, you have another one. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were.
I have one more question.
Okay.
And actually, my question is for Dr. Bernstein. She's listed as a presenter, but you're sitting back there. Would you like, do you want to come up here? I don't know. You can choose the flowers or in between. So I think my question for you, again, my concern centers around this memorandum of understanding, and I heard what the management or how management responded to it. So I guess it's kind of the same question to you, since this was a collaborative effort with the memorandum of understanding. What is your interpretation of how this will play out, like in the classroom, like day to day with our students being able to get the grade level specific instruction that they need?
President Montoya, Cordova, members of the board, sorry. I've been talking with Dr. Segura for some time about the fact that when we started to implement the Common Core standards, we were actually a district that got a grant to do some early implementation and look at how we can shift to standards-based teaching so that we can make sure that our students not only get the kind of standards-based education that they need and deserve, but that our teachers are able to teach deeply to the standards, that they can use skills and they can use facts in the service of the conceptual understanding in language arts, in math, in social studies, and in science, in the core subject areas. So we did some early work and we created some, Dr. Segura, they're called
Scope and sequence.
like a scope and sequence, like a tool for all of the teachers to be able to use to follow it so that they have the kind of support they need to think about how you pace the standards, how you teach to the standards, and it has a lot of instructional materials. They actually had a different name than what everybody's remembering, but they were great. Units of study. Thank you, Dr. Segura. They were called the units of study, and they were a collaborative effort between the administration and the practitioners. And they worked for a very long time getting these units of study done. Then there were a lot of changes in personnel. There were a lot of changes in leadership, and there was a lot of lost focus, especially during the years when we were really focused on more the testing outcomes than how we were actually teaching the kids so that they will test well. And so what we need to do is get together. We have found some of those. We need to revise and update, and then we need to recreate the ones that were lost, and then we need to get them in the hands of teachers. And so what I think we hope to do with the memo of understanding is work together so that it makes sense to teachers. It has the perspective of the practitioner. Is this a useful tool? It has the perspective of the people who are in administration who have to supervise the teachers and make sure that they are teaching to the standards like you're asking them to. And so it's really an effort to correct a wrong and do it in a way that it's very powerful and it's very collaborative so that we can get the right tools in the hands of the teachers as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. And I had wrapped up, but is there any other questions? I'm sorry. We're good? Okay, so now I will call for the vote. So we have a motion, we have a second, and this is consideration for approval of the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between the Albuquerque Municipal School District number 12 and Albuquerque Teachers Federation. Can we have a vote, please?
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
No.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero,
No.
Josefina Dominguez,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson,
No, just because I think the MOU doesn't go far enough.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Yes, so motion carries. All right, so our next item is consideration for approval of the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between the Albuquerque Municipal School District Number 12 and the Communications Workers of America Food and Nutrition Services. Discussion action. I will call for a motion on this, please.
I will move for approval of the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between the Albuquerque Municipal School District Number 12 and the Communications Workers of America Food and Nutrition Services.
This is Crystal, second.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion?
Actually, I'll just ask the question because I always like to ask this. Going forward, what else do you think needs to be addressed in terms of the needs of food and nutrition workers? Is there anything that's going to be open for going forward because I think we're all relieved that there's at least some increase and that there's some positive movement, but where else do we need to get to support this group of employees?
Do you want me to answer that, or would you like to hear from the union?
Either way or both?
Come on.
I will say, I think it's important for us to attract and retain employees. The folks who work in cafeteria services work incredibly hard, and they are passionate about what they do, and they feed our children. And I think that's hugely important.
Right. So the intention is to what I believe is to try to make their working conditions a little more beneficial for them, a little more satisfactory. Obviously, the number one idea is to increase their hourly rate because, again, I've stated this before, they are the lowest demographic of employees that we have. Granted that they work short hours, but doesn't take away the fact that they work as hard as they do within the short time frame that they have to accomplish their goals, which is to feed the children. So we just want to make every intention that we can and every opportunity that we can to improve their conditions and better working environment with their coworkers, management, and their rate of pay, obviously, most of all.
Thank you.
Of course.
And thank you so much for the work and, the group that you represent. I always tell the story that when I started school, my mom was working as a cafeteria worker. She did that so that she could be close to us. But it was so cool because I remember walking through that line and I would see my mom. I would see my Aunt Sophie. I would see my Aunt Annie. So they were all responsible for feeding us there at Kit Carson Elementary. So and they were it was a joy, to walk because I just always remember coming through that line and, being really excited to see my family there. And I think that's what happens because a lot of our food service workers, especially on that front line, also know what's happening with our students. I mean, they are a trusted adult and oftentimes are a very important trusted adult that a child might go to first about a concern. So thank you so much for the work and working on behalf of this group.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? No. I'm going to call for the vote on this, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes.
Barbara Peterson.
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Yes. So our next item is consideration for approval of the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between the Albuquerque Municipal School District Number 12 and the Communication Workers of America Maintenance and Operations. May I have a motion on this, please?
I'll move for approval of the negotiated changes to the negotiated agreement between the Albuquerque Municipal School District Number 12 and the Communication Workers of America Maintenance and Operations.
I'll second. This is Courtney.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Do we have a representative from the union for this one? No, it's Paul, you're still the same person. So yeah, you're a busy guy. So I think going back to the same question that Board Member Peterson asked in terms of what are some things that we need to consider as we're moving forward for this particular group as well?
So this group is an asset and a valuable group to our district here. And the intent with this particular group is to ensure that we can keep them around. Because we have lost so many individuals, employees in certain departments where we were in, I'll use HVAC, for example, we had 50 employees working for the Albuquerque Public Schools in the HVAC department, and we have trickled down to maybe 10 or 12. And unfortunately, we have about 90% of our HVAC that is being contracted out, where the district is spending numerous dollar amounts in regards to how they are using the contractors to fulfill what we believe our employees should be doing. Another concern in regards to using contractors is there's no vested interest when you have employees of the district who see the needs and know the schools and are familiar with these things, where they take pride in the work is the way that we like to look at it, as opposed to just someone who's coming in to do a task and then be on the way. There's numerous other issues that we've had with contractors that we've seen from our perspective that I could sit here and tell you all day, but you know, I don't think you want to, I won't bore you with that. But we would just like to grow our group.
Yeah.
And keep them after you grow them.
Grow them and keep them. Yeah.
So what, I'm curious, what would that look like then? What's it going to take to grow or bring back those 40?
It would take assistance from the team here and the district to make those spots available to fund those positions that we have lost, because once those positions have been dissolved, it's almost impossible to get them back, and we would love to get them back. So if we can work collaboratively to ensure that we can get that done, the funding is the issue there. And I think that if we can move that around some way, somehow, and rather take that from the contractors, and we can learn to maybe move that money around to create positions within the district, that would be ideal.
So they're leaving to work for contractors because they get paid more?
Right. So here we have a starting rate for an HVAC tech who can make what we just added to the hard to fill position was like 24 and some change, 24.97, and outside in the district, they're starting at $35 an hour.
$40.
So we have APS employees in the HVAC department who are leaving because they can go get more money in the private sector. And that's hurting us, and it still continues to hinder us and to be a hindrance to this day, because we still have HVAC techs who are losing. And that's not just HVAC, that's just an example. We have plumbers and electricians who are actually doing the same in all different crafts. And it's vital for us to keep our people so that we can continue to keep these departments successful and operating.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Thank you so much, Mr. Aguilar, for the work that you're doing on behalf of both of your groups there. I really appreciate your leadership there. So I'm going to call for the vote on this.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes.
Barbara Peterson.
Yes.
Crystal Tapia Romero.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Yes. Right. The next Board of Education meeting will be August 16th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And the next special Board of Education meeting will be August 23rd, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. or immediately following the Finance Committee meeting. Both will be held in the John Milne Community Boardroom of the Allison Bruce King Educational Complex and live streamed at aps.edu.